going to look at some functions that help us combine text from different cells into one. We're going to focus on two examples, the CONCAT function and the TEXTJOIN function. Let's head over to the next sheet. At the top part of this sheet, I have a table with first name, middle name, and last name of some employees. Suppose we want to display the full name in the single cell here in column D. We can do this using the CONCAT function. So let's type in CONCAT. In the CONCAT function, we can provide reference to the range of cells as an array, like I've done over here, or we can provide reference to each one of the cells individually, separated by a comma, like in this example. Now here the CONCAT function has joined the names. However, let's suppose that we want to add spaces between the names. We can do that as well using the CONCAT function. However, we will need to add these spaces manually between all the names. So let's say cell A2 refers to Emily and cell B2 refers to Johnson, and between A2 and B2 I want to put in a space. So I'm going to put in an extra comma and I'll put a space enclosed in quotation marks. Likewise, between B2 and C2, I will put in another space and again enclosed within the commas. So it does the job for us, but as you can see that when you need to add spaces or any other delimiter, the CONCAT function can become a bit cumbersome. And that is where the TEXTJOIN function comes in very handy. In the column E, let's try to achieve the same result using the TEXTJOIN function. Let's type in TEXTJOIN. The first argument of this function is the delimiter. In our example, it is a space. So I'm going to provide a space enclosed in a quotation mark. The second argument asks for whether we want to ignore the empty cells or not ignore them. So let's select true for now. And a second later, we'll see how important this can be. And then in the next argument, we need to provide the list of text that we want to be combined. Again, in this function as well, we can provide the list of text as an array. Close the bracket, and that's it. Now there's an important feature of the TEXTJOIN function which I want you guys to know. Let's go ahead and remove the last name in the first example. And let's copy the results of the CONCAT function and the TEXTJOIN function as values somewhere on the side. This is the result of the CONCAT function, and this one is the TEXTJOIN function. If you'll go and deep dive into the CONCAT function's result, you will see that there is a space at the end. And that is because the CONCAT function is combining all the inputs that we have provided up until the second space, even though the last cell is empty, but is still counting the space that was provided before it. However, the TEXTJOIN function is intelligent in that sense. When it sees that the last cell is empty, it will automatically remove the delimiter that comes before it. To drive this point home, let's look at another example. Here we have columns for department, scenario, and month. And we want to combine them into one cell separated by a space and hyphen. Using the CONCAT function, we'll need to write the full formula, which is as follows. So I'll put in CONCAT, the first text, then in quotation mark, space, hyphen, and space, and the second text, again, the delimiter that we want in between the text. And that's all. But with the TEXTJOIN function, the process will become much more simpler. I'm first going to provide the delimiter, which is a hyphen surrounded by a space. Put in true for ignore empty, and just provide the range of cells that we want to combine. And there we go. So this wraps up our lesson on the text functions. We've explored how to clean, extract, and combine text to make our data ready for analysis. There's one more very important function that we need to cover, and that is called the text function. But we're going to cover that in a later lesson. First, we need to learn about custom formatting, which we are going to do in an upcoming lesson. And once you have a good understanding of that, then the text function is going to make a lot more sense. In this video, we're going to learn about date functions in Excel. These functions make it easier to work with and analyze date and time data. For example, calculating difference between the two dates or extracting the month or year from a given date. The today function, as the name suggests, returns the current date. It's quite useful when you want to build dynamic calculations based on today's date. For example, here I have a data set with a customer name, receivable amount, and the due date. To check if the amount is overdue, I can use the today function to return the current date. So I'll type in today and just close the bracket, format the data as a short date. So as you can see, the function has returned the today's date. Now I can calculate the difference between today's date and the due date and convert it into a number. I can drag the formula down. So for each line, the calculation here is now showing how many days have passed since the due date. Now to classify the data, I can use the if statement, where I can say wherever the days since the due date is greater than 0, which means a positive number, I want to return overdue. Otherwise, I want to return not due yet. So for example, Emily Johnson, the amount was due on 28th July 2025. Today is 13th September 2025, so it's been overdue since 55 days. But Olivia Smith will fall due on 15th October, and it's not been due yet, so there are 32 more days to go. Let's take a look at one more example. Here I have a data set containing two columns, transaction date and the amount of transaction. I want to find out how much was the total amount for the year 2025 and 2026. From our SUMIF lesson earlier, you already know that if we had a column in this data set that contained only the year number, we could have easily used the SUMIF function to calculate totals for a given year. But right now, we do not have a specific column which shows only the year number. We just have a column that shows the full date. So in this case, we can extract the year number from the date using the year function. So let's go ahead and type the year function, give reference to the date, copy the function, and paste it down. Now, using the year column, we can apply the SUMIF function and find the sum for a given year. Likewise, if we want to summarize the data by month, we can use the month function. The function will return the month number from the given dates.